Good morning. I'm Pastor Allen. It's Monday, October 5th, and we are continuing our daily Bible study, and we are looking in Matthew chapter 23, continuing the 7 woes. And today we are looking at Matthew chapter 23, verses 16 through 22. Woe to you, blind guides! You say, if anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing. But anyone who swears by the gold of the temple is bound by that oath. You blind fools! Which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred? You also say, if anyone swears by the altar, it means nothing. But anyone who swears by the gift on the altar is bound by the oath. You blind men, which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? Therefore, anyone who swears by the altar swears by it, and by everything on it. And anyone who swears by the temple swears by it, and the one who dwells in it. And anyone who swears by heaven swears by God's throne, and the one who sits on it. Well, the Pharisees swore oaths by the wrong things, and they taught people to swear oaths by the wrong things. In other words, they said if anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing. But if you swear by the gold that's in the temple, then it's really important and you're bound to it. Well, they valued the money, the gold part. But the gold was really nothing. The gold was in the temple, and the temple is what made the gold important. But they were looking at gold with worldly values. It was God Almighty dwelling in the temple that made the gold holy and made it important. You see that in verse 17, you blind fools, which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred? It's the temple. It's not the gold. Remember, you may have heard it talks about in Revelation that the streets are paved with gold. That should tell us, that should remind us of what God's value system is. We put an extremely high value on gold. But for God, who owns everything, gold is nothing. And the Pharisees and the teachers of the law lost sight of that. They elevated gold to being higher than the temple and God who lived in it. And then they talked about in verse 19, you blind men, which is greater, the gift or the altar on which the gift is placed? Of course, the altar represents God. It represents sacrifices. It's not the gift that's important. It's God Almighty and our giving the sacrifice to Him. And so in verse 20 he says, anyone who swears by the altar swears by it and by everything on it. Meaning God, not the gift. And 21, who swears by the temple swears by it and by the one who dwells in it. See, they lost sight, and we've done that. We lose sight of God. We lose sight of the important things. And a lot of people in our modern day world, we worship the church building. But we forget the church building is a place for us to come together and to worship God Almighty. And that's the problem that the Pharisees were doing. It's an easy thing to fall into. But when we do that, we take our eyes off of Jesus, we take our eyes off of God, and we focus on the unimportant things rather than the important things. And that's what Jesus was warning us about. Have a great day.